The most dangerous lie you've ever been told is that you should be yourself. Society tells you to be authentic, be genuine, be true to who you are. But what if who you are right now is not who you're supposed to be? What if being yourself means being mediocre? What if being authentic means being average? What if being genuine means being weak? I'm not telling you to be fake. I'm telling you to be better. I'm not telling you to pretend to be someone else. I'm telling you to become someone better. You are not stuck with the personality you have. You are not trapped by the habits you've developed. You are not limited by the character you've displayed up until now. You have the power to reinvent yourself, to rebuild yourself, to recreate yourself into the person you were designed to be. Stop being yourself and start becoming yourself. Stop accepting who you are and start creating who you can be. You are living in the most comfortable generation in human history, yet you're also living in the weakest. Right now, as I speak to you, millions of people are choosing weakness over strength, comfort over challenge, and mediocrity over excellence. They wake up every morning and make the conscious decision to remain small, to stay safe, and to accept less than what they were created for. The most tragic part, they don't even realize they're doing it. I want to tell you something that might disturb you. Weakness has become so normal in our society that we've stopped recognizing it as weakness. We call it being realistic, we call it being practical, we call it being responsible. But I'm here to tell you that what you call realistic, I call giving up. What you call practical, I call settling. What you call responsible, I call being afraid. Let me share something personal with you. There was a time in my life when I caught myself making excuses for why I couldn't achieve what I knew I was capable of. I was sitting in my office one evening, staring at a list of goals I had written 3 years earlier. Not one of them had been accomplished. Not one. As I sat there, I realized I had become comfortable with my own excuses. I had become comfortable with my own weakness. That night, I made a decision that changed everything. I decided to stop lying to myself about why I wasn't succeeding. You see, true weakness isn't about your physical strength. It's not about how much weight you can lift or how fast you can run. True weakness is the surrender of your mind to fear, doubt, and limitation. True weakness is when you know what you should do, but you choose what's easy instead. True weakness is when you have the ability to change your circumstances, but you choose to complain about them instead. The most dangerous form of weakness is mental weakness because it disguises itself as wisdom. It tells you that you're being smart by not taking risks. It convinces you that you're being mature by lowering your expectations. It whispers in your ear that you're being humble by staying small. But I want you to understand something today. There is nothing wise about wasting your potential. There is nothing mature about accepting mediocrity. There is nothing humble about hiding your gifts from the world. Modern society has created what I call the comfort zone trap. We have so many conveniences, so many safety nets, so many ways to avoid discomfort that we've forgotten how to be strong. We've forgotten how to push through difficulty. We've forgotten how to persevere when things get tough. Your grandfather walked miles to school. Your great-grandmother washed clothes by hand. Your ancestors built civilizations with their bare hand. And you're telling me you can't handle a difficult conversation with your boss? You can't start that business because it might fail? You can't pursue that dream because it's too hard? The comfort zone trap works like this. First, you avoid something difficult. Then you tell yourself you'll do it tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes next week. Next week becomes next month. Next month becomes next year. And before you know it, you've spent your entire life avoiding the very things that would have made you strong. You've spent your entire life choosing comfort over growth. safety over success, and weakness over strength. But here's what I need you to understand. Weakness is not something that happens to you. Weakness is something you choose. Every morning when you wake up, you have a choice. You can choose strength or you can choose weakness. You can choose to face your fears or you can choose to run from them. You can choose to take action despite your doubts, or you can choose to wait until you feel ready. I'm here to tell you that if you're waiting to feel ready, be waiting forever. Strength is always available to you. It's not something you have to earn. It's not something you have to deserve. It's not something that only special people possess. Strength is a choice that's available to every human being in every moment. The question is not whether you have access to strength. The question is whether you will choose it. Right now, as you listen to these words, you have the power to choose strength. You have the power to stop making excuses. You have the power to stop settling for less than you deserve. You have the power to stop being weak. But power that isn't used is power that's wasted. Potential that isn't activated is potential that dies with you. The tragedy of weakness is not just what it costs you personally. The tragedy of weakness is what it costs everyone around you. When you choose weakness, you rob your family of the leader they need. You rob your community of the contributor they need. You rob the world of the solution they need. Your weakness doesn't just affect you. Your weakness affects everyone whose life you could have touched, everyone whose problem you could have solved, everyone whose dream you could have inspired. The time for weakness is over. The time for excuses is over. The time for settling is over. Today is the day you stop being weak and start being who you were created to be. Weakness is a thief. And like every thief, it operates in the shadows. It steals from you gradually, quietly, systematically, until one day you wake up and realize that everything you once dreamed of having is gone. Your dreams have been stolen. Your opportunities have been stolen. Your relationships have been stolen. Your legacy has been stolen. And the cruelest part of all is that you handed the thief the key. Let me tell you about Marcus. He was one of the most brilliant engineers I ever met, fresh out of university. This young man had ideas that could have revolutionized the automotive industry. He had patents sketched out in notebooks, innovations that major companies would have paid millions for. But Marcus had one problem. He was afraid of rejection. He was afraid of failure. He was afraid of looking foolish. So instead of pursuing his innovations, he took a safe job at a small engineering firm. Just temporarily, he told himself, just until I gain more experience. 15 years later, Marcus was still at that same firm, doing the same routine work, watching younger engineers get promoted above him. Those patents in his notebooks, 3 of them had been developed by other companies and were now worth billions. His innovations were being used in cars all over the world, making other people rich, solving problems he had identified years earlier. When I met Marcus, he was bitter, angry, and full of regret. He kept saying, if only I had been braver, if only I had taken the risk. But Marcus's story doesn't end with his own loss. His weakness cost his family their dream home. It cost his children their college education fund. It cost his wife the security she deserved. It cost his community the jobs his company could have created. It cost the world the solutions his mind could have provided. One man's weakness created a ripple effect of loss that touched hundreds of lives. This is what most people don't understand about weakness. They think it's a personal choice that only affects them. They think they have the right to be weak because it's their life. But weakness is never just personal. Your weakness affects your spouse who has to carry the load you refuse to carry. Your weakness affects your children who grow up watching you settle for less and learn that settling is normal. Your weakness affects your co-workers who have to compensate for your lack of initiative. Your weakness affects every person whose life could have been better if you had been stronger. Society has made weakness fashionable. We've created a culture where being a victim gets you sympathy, where having problems gets you attention, where being weak gets you excuses. Social media rewards people for sharing their struggles instead of celebrating their victories. We've made it cool to be broken and uncool to be strong. We've made it acceptable to blame everyone else for our problems and unacceptable to take responsibility for our solutions. This victim mentality has infected an entire generation. People compete to see who has had it harder. They wear their weaknesses like badges of honor. They collect their traumas like trophies. They build their entire identity around what they can't do instead of what they can do. And society applauds them for it. Society tells them they're brave for being weak. Society tells them they're authentic for staying broken. But I'm telling you that there's nothing brave about staying weak and nothing authentic about refusing to grow. The most dangerous thing about weakness is that it compound interest works in reverse. Every day you choose weakness, you become weaker. Every day you avoid challenge, challenge becomes more intimidating. Every day you postpone growth, growth becomes more difficult. Weakness doesn't stand still. It grows, it spreads, it multiplies, it takes over more and more of your life until weakness becomes your default setting. Until weakness becomes your default setting. Most people wait for an emergency to become strong. They wait until they lose their job to develop new skills. They wait until their marriage is falling apart to work on themselves. They wait until their health is failing to start taking care of their body. They wait until they're desperate to become the person they should have been all along. But here's the problem with waiting for an emergency. Sometimes the emergency comes too late. Sometimes the damage is already done. Sometimes the opportunity is already gone. The cost of weakness is always higher than the price of strength. Always. Now that you understand what weakness costs you, it's time to understand what true strength really is. Most people have the wrong definition of strength. They think strength is about dominating others, about never showing emotion, about being hard and cold and unfeeling. But that's not strength. That's just another form of weakness disguised as toughness. True strength is mental resilience. It's the ability to get knocked down and get back up. It's the ability to face uncertainty without being paralyzed by fear. It's the ability to make difficult decisions when everyone around you is choosing the easy path. True strength is emotional intelligence. It's knowing how to control your reactions instead of letting your reactions control you. It's being able to stay calm in chaos, clear in confusion, and confident in crisis. Let me tell you about Elena. 5 years ago, she was a single mother working 2 jobs just to pay rent on a tiny apartment. Her husband had left her with 3 children and massive debt. Most people would have declared bankruptcy, moved back with family, and settled into a life of struggle. But Elena refused to accept that story for her life. She refused to let her circumstances define her future. Elena started by changing her mind. Instead of focusing on what she had lost, she focused on what she could build. Instead of seeing herself as a victim, she saw herself as a survivor who was about to become a victor. She took the last $200 in her bank account and bought books on business and real estate. She studied every night after her children went to bed. She worked her 2 jobs during the day and built her knowledge during the night. Within 1 year, Elena had purchased her first rental property. Within 3 years, she owned 12 properties. Today, she owns a real estate empire worth millions of dollars. Her children attend private schools. She employs 37 people. She has created wealth, not just for herself, but for dozens of families who work in her businesses. But here's what's most important about Elena's story. She didn't become strong overnight. She built her strength like a muscle. Strength is a muscle. And like every muscle, it gets stronger when you exercise it and weaker when you neglect it. Every time you choose the difficult path over the easy path, your strength muscle gets stronger. Every time you face your fear, instead of running from it, your strength muscle gets stronger. Every time you take action despite uncertainty, your strength muscle gets stronger. But there's a difference between strength and stubbornness. Stubborn people refuse to change even when change would help them. Strong people are flexible enough to adapt while staying committed to their goals. Stubborn people think they know everything. Strong people are humble enough to learn from everyone. Stubborn people blame others when things go wrong. Strong people take responsibility and find solutions. The beautiful thing about strength is that it has a compound effect. One act of strength makes the next act of strength easier. One courageous decision makes the next courageous decision less frightening. One breakthrough gives you confidence for the next breakthrough. Strength builds momentum, and momentum creates unstoppable force. When you start exercising your strength muscle, something amazing happens. Problems that used to overwhelm you become manageable challenges. Obstacles that used to stop you become stepping stones. Fears that used to paralyze you become fuel for your growth. You don't become a different person. You become who you were always meant to be. This is the anatomy of true strength. It's not about perfection. It's about progression. It's not about never falling. It's about always getting back up. It's not about having no fear. It's about acting despite your fear. There comes a moment in every person's life when they have to make a decision. It's the moment when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of changing. It's the moment when you look in the mirror and say, enough is enough. I refuse to live this way anymore. I refuse to be weak anymore. I refuse to settle anymore. This moment is your transformation point. And everything in your life changes when you reach it. Most people never reach this moment because they keep making their pain comfortable. They adjust to disappointment. They get used to mediocrity. They normalize their limitations. But there are some people who refuse to adjust. They refuse to get comfortable with less than they deserve. These are the people who transform their life. Let me tell you about an old fisherman I met on a small island. This man had been using the same tiny boat for 30 years. Every day, he would go out to sea and come back with just enough fish to feed his family and sell a few at the market. Other fishermen had upgraded to bigger boats, better equipment, modern technology. They were catching more fish, making more money, providing better lives for their families. But this old fisherman refused to change. I asked him why he didn't get a bigger boat. He said, "This boat has served me well. Why should I change?" I asked him if he wanted to catch more fish. He said, "I catch enough." I asked him if he wanted to provide more for his family. He said, "They have what they need." This man had confused settling with being content. He had confused limitation with satisfaction. He was so afraid of the risk of growth that he chose the certainty of staying small. 3 years later, I returned to that island. The old fisherman was still using the same boat, but now it was falling apart. The other fishermen had prospered, expanded their businesses, and were helping their children build better lives. But the old fisherman was struggling just to survive. His fear of change had become his guarantee of decline. This is what happens when you refuse to break your weakness patterns. You don't stay the same. You get worse. Your patterns become deeper. Your limitations become stronger. Your excuses become more elaborate. The world moves forward, but you stay stuck. Breaking weakness patterns requires honesty about your limiting behaviors. You have to identify the thoughts you think that make you weak. You have to recognize the words you speak that reinforce your limitations. You have to see the actions you take that keep you small. Most importantly, you have to take responsibility for changing them. Your daily strength protocol starts with your morning thoughts. The first thoughts you think when you wake up either strengthen you or weaken you. If you wake up dreading the day, you're training yourself for weakness. If you wake up excited about possibilities, you're training yourself for strength. Your strength or weakness is determined by the small choices you make every day. The people you surround yourself with will either support your strength or enable your weakness. Weak people will always try to convince you that your dreams are too big. Your goals are unrealistic. Your standards are too high. They do this not because they care about you, but because your strength reminds them of their weakness. Strong people will challenge you to grow, encourage you to take risks, and celebrate your victories. They will hold you accountable to your commitments and refuse to let you make excuses. Choose your environment carefully, because your environment will shape your identity. When you finally choose strength over weakness, when you finally decide to stop settling for less than you deserve, something remarkable happens. Your entire life reorganizes itself around your new identity. The same situations that used to defeat you now energize you. The same challenges that used to overwhelm you now excite you. The same people who used to intimidate you now respect you. You don't change your circumstances first and then become strong. You become strong first, and then your circumstances have no choice but to change. Because I want you to understand what living from strength really looks like. When you live from strength, you don't wait for permission to pursue your dreams. You don't need approval from others to believe in yourself. You don't require guarantees before you take action. You operate from an internal source of power that no external situation can diminish. You become unshakable because your strength comes from within, not from your circumstances. Living from strength means you stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop trying to convince weak people to support your strong decisions. You stop apologizing for refusing to settle. You stop making yourself smaller so that others feel more comfortable. You realize that your strength is not arrogant. Your strength is necessary. But here's something powerful about strength that most people never realize. Strength is contagious. When you become strong, you give others permission to become strong. When you refuse to accept excuses from yourself, others start questioning their own excuses. When you stop complaining and start creating solutions, others start looking for their own solutions. When you transform your life through strength, you become living proof that transformation is possible. Let me tell you about a woman named Victoria who understood this principle. Victoria worked as a secretary in a law firm for 8 years. She was intelligent, capable, and had always dreamed of becoming a lawyer herself. But she had convinced herself that it was too late, too expensive, too difficult. She was 34 years old with 2 children and a mortgage. Every excuse seemed reasonable. One day, Victoria got tired of watching less qualified people get promoted above her. She got tired of knowing she was capable of more but accepting less. She got tired of being weak. That night, she went home and applied to law school. Her family thought she was crazy. Her friends told her she was being unrealistic. Her boss warned her that she was making a mistake. But Victoria had made a decision to be strong. And strong people don't change their minds based on other people's fears. She studied at night after her children went to bed. She worked full-time during the day and attended classes in the evening. She sacrificed social events, television shows, and weekend relaxation. For 3 years, she lived with a level of discipline and determination that amazed everyone around her. Victoria graduated from law school with honors. Today, she's a partner in her own law firm. But here's the most beautiful part of her story. Her transformation didn't just change her life. It changed her children's understanding of what's possible. It changed her friends' beliefs about what they could achieve. It changed her community's definition of limitation. Her teenage daughter, who watched Victoria study law books while cooking dinner, is now pursuing her own dreams with the same determination. Her neighbor, who watched Victoria leave for evening classes while exhausted from work, started her own business. Her sister, who watched Victoria sacrifice comfort for growth, went back to school to become a nurse. Victoria's strength created a ripple effect of strength in every life she touched. This is what I call the strength contagion. When you become strong, you don't just transform your own life, you become a catalyst for transformation in every life you influence. You become proof that excuses are optional, that limitations are choices, that strength is available to anyone willing to choose it. But strength doesn't just attract admiration from others. Strength builds unshakable confidence within yourself. This confidence is not arrogance. Arrogance is fake confidence based on comparison with others. True confidence is quiet assurance based on your track record of overcoming challenges. When you've proven to yourself that you can be strong when strength is required, you stop doubting your ability to handle whatever life brings you. Unshakable confidence means you don't need constant validation from others. You don't need perfect conditions to take action. You don't need to feel ready before you begin. You understand that confidence comes from doing things that require confidence, not from feeling confident before you do them. You build confidence by keeping commitments to yourself, by doing what you said you would do when you said you would do it. Your new identity as a strong person means you stop identifying with your past weaknesses. You stop saying, I'm not good at that, or I could never do that, or that's not who I am. You start saying, I'm learning that, or I'm becoming someone who can do that, or I'm growing into that. You realize that your identity is not fixed. Your identity is fluid. And you have the power to shape it through your choices. Strong people don't make decisions based on their current capabilities. They make decisions based on who they're becoming. They don't ask, can I do this? They ask, who do I need to become to do this? They don't focus on their limitations. They focus on their potential. They don't live in their past. They create their future right now, in this moment. You have a choice to make. You can continue being weak, or you can choose to be strong. You can continue making excuses, or you can start making progress. You can continue settling for less, or you can start demanding more from yourself. This choice will determine everything that happens in your life from this moment forward if you choose strength. Here's what you must do immediately. First, identify one area of your life where you've been weak and commit to being strong in that area starting today. Second, stop making excuses for why you can't and start finding ways that you can. Third, surround yourself with people who expect strength from you and refuse to enable your weakness. Fourth, take one action today that requires courage, even if it's small. Fifth, stop waiting for perfect conditions and start working with what you have. Your life is not a dress rehearsal. You don't get to practice being strong someday. Today is the day you choose strength. Today is the day you stop being weak. Today is the day you start becoming who you were created to be. The world doesn't need another weak person making excuses for why they can't succeed. The world needs another strong person showing others what's possible. Your family doesn't need another person who settles for mediocrity. Your family needs a leader who demonstrates excellence. Your community doesn't need another person who complains about problems. Your community needs a problem solver who creates solutions. Stop being weak Choose strength. Your future depends on it. Your family's future depends on it. The world's future depends on it. You have everything you need to be strong. The only question is whether you will choose to use it. The time for weakness is over. The time for strength is now.